Hey guys, it's Fritz of the FritzCast podcast. How y'all doing today? Welcome to the Twitter feed or the Facebook feed, whatever social media format you're watching on. I'm Fritz, and some of you might be looking for a new episode of FritzCast today, but I come being the bearer of bad news. It's not going to happen today. I'm not going to sit down behind the mic and do a podcast episode. I alluded to the fact that there were some changes going on at home. I have a new promotion at work that, I'm excited to start, but also, unfortunately, it means my tomorrow isn't really how my Saturdays usually work. I'm usually off on Saturdays. I still am off on Saturday, but when you're working on a midnight to 8 kind of a flow, it just doesn't work out that way anymore. So that means that my day-to-day is a little more chaotic and hectic rather than laid back as it usually is, to sit behind the microphone and to record an episode of FritzCast. Not to mention the fact of some of the overtimes I've been picking up, preparing, got a baby on the way, got a baby daughter on the way, which, by the way, wife's doing wonderful. Thanks to everybody who's been asking and reaching out. I appreciate your comments and your thoughts on that and your advice, whether it is solicited advice or unsolicited advice. I still appreciate it, and I'm glad that people have been reaching out and are excited for me because it's an exciting time. 2019's been a really good year for Fritz and FritzCast and the FritzCast family, as it were, and I feel very blessed in particular over a lot of things, especially expanding our family, new opportunities through work, new opportunities through this podcast, and talking to some of you people. It's been very, very fun to get connected and expand those horizons. It's been very fun to do that. Among other things, I haven't been able to catch up on things. CNN held town halls with all these Democrats, with all these Democratic candidates, and I've barely been able to watch a one. I watched Fox News' town hall with Bernie Sanders, which was like 2 weeks ago, I think, maybe even 3 weeks ago. I just watched that this past week to gather my thoughts on that. I haven't even been able to begin gathering my thoughts on things like CNN town halls with Kamala Harris and Amy Klobuchar and Bernie Sanders as well, Pete Buttigieg, all these people that are in giving out these ideas and being able to tackle their ideas line by line, item by item, and provide the more limited government and libertarian view on things. That's going to take some work, and that means I don't want to cheap shot an episode. I've been putting out a couple of shorter episodes over the past weeks, and I don't want to shortchange it or cheap shot it. So that's one of the reasons why this episode's not happening, and the other reason the episode's not happening is I'm preparing for big life adjustments because I've never worked a schedule like 12 to 8 where essentially people are zombies. If you know what I mean. That's the sleeping hour. I mean, I get knocked out cold by 12:30, so tomorrow my day's going to be cut somewhat down from taking a nap preparing for work. I'm absolutely sure of that. And I might actually even be looking forward to that nap. That's more proof of how I'm an adult now in my life. That was a stunning revelation. Loving naps means you're an adult. For real. Yesterday, what's today's date? Today's the 26th. Yeah, I just did check my watch. I'm that kind of a guy who had to check for the date on his watch. Yesterday was the 25th, so a month from yesterday, and in a month from yesterday's date, I'll be hitting my 30th birthday on top of everything. That's why 2019's been so big. Baby on the way, big job promotion, turning 30. Crazy year, and on top of all that, we're getting ready to go full steam into a presidential election year with not only with a field of 27 Democrats, which, by the way, just the other day, turns out this was totally left field and curveball too. I don't think anybody saw this coming. I didn't even factor this in my thinking about the election season. Former Delaware Senator and former Vice President Joe Biden announced that he's running for president. Totally left field. Didn't have any of that in any of my prep notes or preparation. So, I mean, I now I have to go back to the drawing board and figure out where he fits in all this, because it's not like he's been in any of the polling in the news, right? He hasn't been in any of the polls in the news as if he were running, because he never announced that he was running until just the other day, which is nuts. That's nuts. I have to figure that out now. And Delaware is going nuts. Delaware news is going nuts when Joe Biden steps off of the train in Wilmington, because, oh my God, Joe Biden stepped off the train in Wilmington. Were you there? Did you see it? I didn't, because I was working all day yesterday. Crazy. He had lunch here too. I can't believe this guy actually stops and eats lunch in Delaware, where he's had most of his political career. It's very crazy that these things would happen. But that's just some of the stuff that I've been dealing with in prepping. And the next one of the next episodes of FritzCast that I'm plotting out, and if you're still watching through now, it's been about 6 minutes and 5 seconds. Thanks for toughing it out. But one of the next episodes that I'm working on, one of the bigger episodes I'm working on, is the discussion about voting. Voting, the Electoral College, because this is a big discussion that people are having right now. You hear it left and right. Oh, let's abolish the Electoral College. It's some ancient, archaic way of deciding things. And it doesn't make much sense, and it doesn't really represent us. Which is a big debate to unravel, because there's a lot of different aspects in that. There's the aspect of what is the job of the president supposed to do anyway? Is he really actually supposed to represent the will of the people, or is he supposed to be the figurehead of the government? Is he supposed to have all these executive powers that he's not supposed to have? Is he a king? Is he a tyrant? I don't know. All of this mixed up with the fact that the Mueller report has been released. I haven't been able to read all of the Mueller report, but I know from certain analyses that I've been listening to and watching that it's still not much of a thing, even though they're desperately trying to make it a thing, on top of all of that. But one of the upcoming episodes, I'm not going to say it's the next episode, but one of the upcoming episodes in this season of FritzCast that's coming up will be the Electoral College episode, but it's going to be much more than just the Electoral College, because I think that's too narrow a focus if we're not talking about voting and the structure of our nation and our system of government. Those are things that I think are pillars in that discussion coming up. And if you have sources, feedback, if you want to participate in that episode, so I don't care if you're running another podcast. It doesn't have to be a libertarian podcast. It can be whatever. I'm an open guy. I don't shut out people just because they're liberals or they're conservatives or anything like that. I am a libertarian-ish kind of guy, which means that I toe the line. I mean, there's no real libertarian party line for me to toe. It's hard to be that if you don't know how deep libertarian and squabbling go against each other. It's somewhat probably worse than the duopoly government that we have right now. Honest to God. But if you want to be involved in that discussion, reach out to me, whether it's on Twitter, Facebook, Gmail, FritzCast Podcast, FRITZ podcast at gmail.com is the FritzCast Podcast Gmail source. You can email me there if you want to reach out to me. You can direct message me on Twitter and on Facebook. Those lines are opened up. I'm willing to collaborate with people because I want more voices in on this. I don't want to just be sitting there going, the Electoral College is right because, or the Electoral College is bad because. I'd rather have a discussion of, hey, these are some positive aspects, these are some negative aspects. Can this mold into something new and different? Or do we just have to stay at where we're at because, this is America and we do everything perfectly right anyway, right? Not really. You get it, though. Thanks for hanging in there. It's about to hit the 10-minute mark, but thanks for hanging in there for this little brief update on the FritzCast. I apologize that it's not a full-fledged podcast episode and that for some reason you were drawn to watch this long me just ranting in front of my phone in a room by myself with the fan turned off because it made noise in the background and it bothered me. All right, but no, really, I do appreciate everybody that reaches out. I do appreciate connecting with everybody. And if I had some suggestions of podcasts to listen to over the course of the weekend, since you can't listen to FritzCast, or if you need to catch up on FritzCast, catch up on it. But if I had to suggest some podcast episodes to really listen to, Andrew Heaton, Something's Off with Andrew Heaton. Amazing individual. His podcasts are informative, unique, different, and not closed-minded. I think it's very good discussion. And he had some very good episodes over the past week that you should catch up on. John Ziegler is another source, just amazing, off of that beaten mainstream path that brings you information and perspective, and it's raw and it's real. It's not filtered. These are people that you can go to, and it's not like watching a news broadcast or one of those talking heads on the TV, because they're different. They're independent minded. Those two especially, and then the Conservatarians by Stephen Miller. And I am John Gabriel, Stephen Miller and John Gabriel. They run an amazing weekly podcast with introspective and retrospective about the news and what's happening. Those are three that I would start with. And my friends Political Otters, it's Polita Otters on Twitter. The Otters Talking Politics podcast is their actual podcast. I knew I would get there eventually. I'm very, very sorry, Mr. Otter. Please forgive me. But the Political Otters is a great podcast. Brian Nichols Liberty, the Brian Nichols Liberty Show is another amazing. He's a good friend of mine that you should check out. And then Jimmy Davies of the Mod Podcast, the Moderate Podcast, another good, level-headed place to go for a different perspective of politics. Thanks for hanging in, and I'll see you guys hopefully next week. Next week I should be back into the spin of things, but I might still be adjusting to a zombie schedule, so hang in there. So if it's not next week, you'll have another video update like this. And other than that, guys, thanks.